What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next NBA draft scouting report. So yesterday I did Domantas Sabonis, and today I'll be coming back with an international player, Timothe Luwawu. So if any of you guys have been paying attention to mock drafts or anything, got a lot of scouting reports, you've probably seen this name pop up a few times, or you might know a little bit more about him than just the name. So get into some of his background information. So he's a 6'7", 210-pound wing player, shooting guard, small forward. 7'2" wingspan, out of France. He's from Caen. Not really sure how you pronounce it. I'm assuming Caen. But anyway, 21 years old. So he played for Mega Vizura, I believe that's right, over in, I want to say that's France. It's either France or that's Spain. So either way, let's go ahead and get into the scouting report. So, for strength, he's got obviously great size and wingspan. 7'2" wingspan's an elite measurable for especially for a shooting guard. Even a small forward, that's a pretty desirable size to have. 210 pounds is definitely not small. It probably will fill out the frame a little bit more. I'd say get up to around 215, 220 will probably be his NBA weight, and that's again a pretty good weight to be at. So I do want to talk about how he uses his wingspan a little bit. So when you watch his drives, one guy that I like to compare good wing size use on wings to is Kawhi Leonard. If you've been watching Kawhi Leonard at all this season, he uses his wingspan especially well on defense and on offense. Uses it to get a lot of steals, cover a lot of wing players that you wouldn't be able to cover if you had a wingspan smaller than like 6'10", at a 6'7", 6'8" size, and really use a sky hook and use your body to be able to reach over some of the shorter players that'll be covering you on the wings. And that's one that Luwawu uses those are some things that Luwawu uses his wingspan for extremely well on both ends of the court. So second strength is his athleticism and drive. So good motor. He's an athletic guy, good vertical, I believe around 37, 38 inches. And with that wingspan, that means he plays above the rim extremely well. Watching him drive, he's very quick on his first step. He's got good agility, good quickness, and I'd say the overall foot speed and the overall athleticism you would really desire from a 2 or a 3 guard, or a 2 guard or a 3 player, depending on how you run your team. But third strength is he's a great scorer and an improving shooter. So again, he knows how to drive the ball. He's a very versatile shooter. He improved his 3-point shooting very well since the 2014 season. This year he shot 37.5% compared to 28.7% the year before that. Field goal percentage stayed in the same ballpark. He's not the greatest 2-point shooter yet. It's something that's improved, but he's still only a 40% field goal shooter. And that discrepancy is a little bit weird between 3-point and field goal. Normally, if you're a 38% field goal shooter, or a 3-point shooter, you're normally around a 44% field goal shooter. Free throws, okay, around 70%. That stat that definitely you will hope get improved as being a go-to scorer. He took about 12, 13 shots per game on the team he's on right now. And he's a very versatile offensive player. He can drive, he can play above the rim, he can catch and shoot, he can pull up. Again, it's just a lot of it goes back to him improving as a shooter. If he's able to get up to be around a 43-44% shooter in the NBA, then he'll be a pretty dangerous scorer. So fourth strength is he's a good facilitator. He is a pretty good passer. He averages around 3 assists per game, which isn't great by any stretch of the mind, but also you watch him play and he does keep it most of the time, but his facilitating abilities, they got potential. Again, it's more something you got to recognize when you watch his highlights. But yeah, I think that'll be one thing that comes along in the NBA. I think he's the type of guy that can average 4 or 5 assists per game in the NBA. So fifth strength is his defensive ability, and this is more upside than anything. But with that wingspan that he's got, that's a pretty elite measurable. Averaged around 2 assists per game this past year over in France or Spain, wherever that was. Anyway, adding that to averaging around 5 rebounds per game, again, good, not great, and combining that with good footwork, good set of fundamentals, and it's that's a very projectable upside, one that you hope comes along well, and one that makes him to be able to defend any 2 or 3 on the wing that you could want in the NBA. So we'll get into some of his weaknesses. First one is his shooting inconsistencies. Like I mentioned, he's still not a great shooter. I mean, 40% is definitely not a desired percentage for someone taking 12, 13 field goals per game. Also, free throw shooting, hope improves. Again, it's something that improved, but it's something that wasn't fully there yet, obviously. Again, coming back to the percentage. I think it is something that will improve. Probably looking at around 42, 43% shooter in the NBA. If he can top out the way a lot of people expect him to. So, get into the second weakness, which is his limited tools as a ball handler. Like I said, he does have good passing ability, but the consistent decision-making ability isn't there yet. Again, I think you can chalk that up to inexperience and youth. Something that should, again, come along in the NBA. And you hope does. But averaging around 3 assists per game to about 2.5, 3 turnovers per game, it's not a good stat for someone playing at the 2 guard a lot and someone that has the ball in their hands a lot. Again, he's not an advanced dribbler either. A lot of time the ball just slows down when it goes from the point guard to him. He does have a pretty good arsenal on offense when it comes to just scoring, but you hope that the not only the ball handling ability, but just the offensive creating ability translates to the NBA, that he's able to improve as a shooter and be able to cut down on the turnovers as a passer. Sorry about that. But anyway, third weakness is turnovers. So this goes into more things than just his ball handling ability. This is overall him I think it goes back to him needing to slow down the game a little bit. When it comes to 3 turnovers per game, I believe that about 1 to 1.5 of those turnovers were in transition. I think he needs to slow down the game. If he becomes a little bit better ball handler than this, a lot of these turnovers will just fade away. But consistent decision making and I feel like slowing the game down in his mind a little bit. Again, you see this with a lot of young players. They kind of get tunnel vision, or just the game's going way too fast in their mind than it is with their body, and they make quick decisions that they shouldn't be making extremely quickly. And again, I think that happened with Luwawu. A lot of times he missed players cutting if he was passing. The off-ball awareness, while it's there, it's not consistent. And a lot of times that just led to turnovers while he had the ball in his hands. So I think if you can cut down on the turnovers, increase the shooting percentage, that really cuts down on pretty much all of his weaknesses. Again, the limited tools as a ball handler is not a huge thing. I think the 2 biggest weaknesses are his shooting inconsistencies and his turnovers. But the limited tools as a ball handler is something that I think will probably always be a thing. Most times a wing player, unless they are one of those, Paul George, LeBron James, Kevin Durant types where they can play any position from the 1 to the 4 and always have the ball in their hand when they're coming down the court. I think that the ball handling is something that you're just going to have to kind of accept that the ball's just kind of going to slow down when the ball's with a guy like Luwawu. All right, so get into some of his NBA projections. Best fits in the draft and where I think he's going to get drafted in the first place. So last NBA draft.net mock draft had him falling at, let's see, looks like number 20. Can't find him. Hold up. Oh, they had him actually falling at number 32. So out of the first round. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. For me, I think Luwawu will end up being a late first round pick. I'd say between picks 18 to 30. That's probably where you're looking at him falling in. Now, when you're talking about best fits, one that I think that Memphis needs help on the wing offensively. They need some scorers on the wing, that's for sure. That'd be a great fit in my mind at number 17. A few other ones, Detroit at 18, they do They do have a pretty heavy need of a wing scorer. I think KCP is not really an answer there. And then also, I really like the fit in either Philadelphia or Golden State, adding another wing player in. It's hard. I really like players like this that are undeveloped with Golden State, just because, I mean, you think they'll be able to fit in so well and be such an offensive force. And I do think he'd fit in well as a good role player, but again, that's more just a afterthought than anything else. I think he fits into really any system where he can come in and get good exposure in, I guess, the second rotation. Still get the ball in his hands a lot, probably not as a starter, but be able to get looks maybe against lesser competition, with some good supporting casts in a rotation that, really help him, like I said, slow the game down in his mind, limit the turnovers. And I think then he'll come along, he'll be able to focus a little bit more on shooting, and I think that could help him round his game out really well. I think he's going to need a little bit of defensive support. I think the biggest thing he needs on the defensive side of the ball is just a good fundamental coach to help him understand off-ball awareness and just the movement of offenses in the NBA a little bit more. All right, so talk about stats projections, or I guess stat projections with him. So this is the type of guy, when he this year he did average. Actually, I have a really impressive average. Let me see if I can find it. Oh man. Oh, I can't believe I can't find this. Sorry about this. Looks like 18.9 points per game. So, and I think it was like 24 minutes per 40. And that would be at a college average. So again, a good scoring rate. But when you're transferring over to the NBA, I think you're talking about a guy that's going to be averaging you probably closer to, I say 8 to 10 points per game his rookie year. Again, he's a good scorer. He's going to get his points if he is a first-round pick, but he's not a guy that's going to come over and start right away. I think you're talking about a guy that's maybe a 8 to 10 point scorer with probably 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Rebounds, assists look like they go pretty much hand in hand with him. Well, that pretty much does it for this video. Timothe Luwawu, one of the more intriguing prospects in this draft. One of the more, I guess, high-risk, high-reward picks also. And tomorrow I will be coming back with DeAndre Bembry. So again, another player that came on late, and pretty intriguing draft prospect as well. So that's pretty much it. See ya. 10 power forward out of Gonzaga, sophomore. From Portland, originally from Lithuania, that is his nationality. And he's also got a 6'10" wingspan. If I didn't mention this, about 238, maybe 240 pounds. So get into some of his strengths. First one is he's a great